for a change lifestyle concerning of others. And now, during this epidemic turned into a world pandemic, coronavirus data and the other virus with a new symbol of monkeypox. The quarantine of still inmates still not wearing masks or without this throughout this facility, and we are one closed in a closed dorm. Okay, my health and my mistake are concerned. Excuse me, are concerned. Okay, and
All right.
We are about to watch the 2022 parole hearing of a man who served 10 years of his 12-year sentence for doing the worst to a child. We will also go over the appeal, which he had won in court, that takes into account his competency. And it's an interesting appeal to go through. We'll go through it at the end of the hearing. And then we'll do two more interesting and also shocking hearings. With that, let's jump in.
All right. Please introduce yourself, state your name and DOC number for the record.
right, Ch0m0s Johnson, 623-427.
Okay, Jeremy, my name is Brendan Kelsey. Along with me is Ms. Jackson, Ms. Wise. We'll explain the process to you. Read some information to the record, have a parole interview, ask you some questions. You can respond at the end. You can make a statement. We'll take a vote. You understand the process?
Yes, sir.
Ch0m0s Johnson, DOC number 623-427. You are a first-class offender. Parole eligibility date 5/23/2017. You're not eligible for good time, and your full term is 6/7/2024. 12 years. Indecent behavior with a juvenile. Does that sound correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. How old are you?
33, sir.
How long how many years have you been in jail?
I've been in jail 10 and a half years, sir.
Okay. And 10 and a half years on 12 years since, so you're getting close. Tell me what kind of classes have you taken? What have you done while you've been incarcerated?
Have taken the sex offender program, which was at Bayou Dorche Correctional Center, and I have taken the anger management classes.
I see. I only have one here that you took phase 1 and phase 2 of your sex offender treatment. Have you taken anything other than phase 1 and phase 2?
Yes, sir. I took let's see. I took sex offender treatment under what was successful was participating in the sex offender program treatment, complete phase 1 through 4 at the Bayou Dorche Correctional Center, and I have the certificates with me that I graduated, and I took I completed the anger management program, and that was it, sir.
What was the date of that?
The date was stated December the 19th, 2021.
2021. Just got it done. Okay, that's good. Well, you got it done. Now, do you have a high school diploma or a GED?
High school diploma, sir.
What year did you graduate in?
2008. May the 20, I think it was May the 25th at Houghton High School. I was in the special ed education.
Okay, Houghton, yeah, good. Okay. Have you had any disciplinary write-ups?
Yes, I had one disciplinary write-up at the Bayou Dorche Correctional Center. Would you let me explain the write-up whenever asked?
What's the write-up was?
Okay, the write-up was I had a report of a contraband as the determinant of a dorm orderly. I was cleaning the dorm up, and I had extra bleach and to clean up the dorm orderly, and I was I had some extra ones, and I had the right to and they deferred me to court with Ashley Johnson and Mr. Lieutenant J.R. Lewis. and remained in the blood, and the stuff was on the floors and walls and stuff like that. And so I keep bleach to keep the dormitory clean area, but did not get penalized for it because it had been thrown out. It was thrown out by Ashley Johnson and J.R. Lewis, and they gave me extra duty, but was not they did not give me the extra duty as required as they said they were gonna give it to me. And I had and and further notice, they gave me they let me come back to the dorm and keep my dorm orderly job.
Okay. Well, that's good. Well, tell me about your crime. What caused you to do these things? Tell me about. I mean, this is a pretty significant crimes here. Tell me what caused you to do this stuff.
Because they do it. For the further apart, it was just political, and I thought it was. I know it was not appropriate to do so, but it was just the unappropriate way to do it, and I was just not in the fresh of a mind at the time. When I went to as I was during the time of the crime, and I just did. I know it was wrong, and I apologize for my convenience and my statement that what I did was wrong, and I will thank to just go back to, and I'm ready to go back to society. And for further notice, or could you please give me the understanding of what you're trying to say?
I was just asking you about the crime. Why did you commit the crime? It was a bad crime. It was a terrible thing with young children. Tell me what caused you to do those things.
Okay, well, I thought at one point I thought he was at the age older than I was, and I was politically not paying attention at the time or how old he was, and how abusive crime could be, and the convenience, and that it was happening. So I had apologized, and I just was sorry for my wrong on my behalf, and didn't know exactly what.
So what did you learn? What did you learn in sex offender treatment?
In sex offender treatment.
Yeah, what did you learn? You don't have to look down at the papers. You can just tell me what you learned.
Okay, in the sex offender treatment, I learned about the status, how to avoid, or having it's not right to have interaction with kids or interactive, and I learned about the courses of the sex offender, and I have learned about they have teach you, and they have teach you the proper status of how to be able to control your fears, how to be able to control your anger, and how to be able to control your sex morality, to be able to do that status again, and to be able to come back to jail again.
Okay, now, are you do you take any type of medication? Are you on any medication?
No, sir.
Okay. What are your plans if you were be released? Where are you going to go? What are you going to do?
I'm going to get a job, and I'm going to attend church. I'm going to do better things. I'm going to
job. What kind of job are you going to get?
I'm going to my brother. He own a construction site. He's so I can be able to get a job with him, or I can be able to help my community, like feeding the needs and feeding the homeless. And
who are you going to live with?
Sir?
Who are you going to live with?
To my
If you're released, who you gonna live with?
oh, my brother Brandon Monroe.
Okay. Staff, do y'all have any input back there? Do y'all have any input on him? Anybody?
Talking to you.
Do y'all have any input for me on him at all? Do you know anything about him, or has he had any disciplines or any issues that we need to be aware of?
I'm not sure because I don't come in contact with them until they come up for court. Let me
Okay.
get some help here.
Okay. All right, that's okay. Thank you. Okay, would you like to make a statement on your behalf?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, Jeremy.
Okay. But anyway, I thank you for coming to let me participate in this parole hearing. I also thank you for giving me another opportunity, a chance in life, and to be able to become a better person who I was back then, but who I am now today. And my name is Ch0m0s Johnson, DOC 623-427, the Louisiana Department of Public Safety and Corrections. And I'm gonna read a little something that I have wrote. The board of Your Honorable completed on parole the October 6, 2022 schedule for parole hearing. Dear Honorable Board members, I appreciate this opportunity to come up for this schedule appearance and pray. I am eligible for parole supervision, which I believe responsible preparing myself for this opportunity that y'all have given me. I am orderly and get along with others. I've been incarcerated since my arrest and learned how to read, write, and thinking for a change lifestyle concerning of others. And now during this epidemic turn into a world pandemic, coronavirus data and the other virus with a new symbol of monkeypox. The quarantine of still an inmate still not wearing masks or without this throughout this facility, and we are one closed in a closed dorm. Okay, my health and my mistake are concerned. Excuse me, are concerned. Okay, and
All right. Okay, thank you. Staff, you have something to say? Do you know this fella? Or you have any input on this?
How you doing, sir?
What's your name for the record?
Lieutenant Guys.
Do you have any information on him at all as far as any problems, any type of disciplinaries or anything that we need to be aware of?
No, sir. He never gave me any problems since he's been here.
Okay, so he's done well.
Yeah, he done pretty good. He done well.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you. All right, pal, fair to vote. I'll vote first. Jeremy, it sounds like you're heading the right direction, man. You're doing some good stuff. You're trying to do right. You know, look, you getting close to really being released on your full term date. For me today, I'm gonna have to deny you parole. You do have law enforcement opposition. You have victim opposition, and you know, keep working hard. It makes you have a really good residence plan and maybe a better plan. Get some with the transition folks and try to get that ironed out. But my vote is to deny today. Ms. Wise?
Jeremy, this is real hard for you. I know it was, but you did a good job. You really showed up and you did good. You did good. But for me, my vote is to deny with the recommendation that you get moved to a transitional work program. The thing says that you're eligible for transition work. Give you an opportunity to make a little money before you get out in 2024, the good time date. Because you said you completed your treatment and you got a good institutional record from the staff. But because of law enforcement opposition, the nature of your charge, I just think you need a little more time there. Take care of yourself.
Ms. Jackson?
Hi, Jeremy, likewise, you've done a good job while you're there. but I'm concerned that you don't have any family on the call today. And it's very important to have a strong support system when you get out of prison. You gotta have family who's gonna be right there with you. And so I think you need to kind of work on getting your family on board and have them appear the next time. And you do have opposition from law enforcement and the victims, so my vote today is to deny, but to encourage you to keep working hard.
Right, 3 votes to deny your parole. Your parole's been denied. Good luck to you. And it's 10:56. We'll adjourn at Ch0m0s. Thank y'all.
All right, thank you.
You know, I just wish so badly that he didn't do such a horrendous crime. We'll get into, we don't have really a lot of details, but it was a classic harming of a child. Because I just almost like felt like rooting for him. I don't know. I kind of, it's like, it kind of felt bad. You could see he's struggling. He's has what seems to be a clear learning disability, to say the least. And it's like he's trying, but he has no support. He has nowhere to go. Releasing him, and I'm pretty sure that this is how the board felt. I mean, he served 10 years of a 12-year sentence, and they would release inmates left and right, like this, you know, without blinking an eye. But they see this, I think, on their charts as a clear strike against their parole rate, because the odds that he would come back for a parole violation without any outside support are just really high. I mean, that's you know, not that he's at risk of harming a child again. That was not my takeaway. I think he's just at risk of violating parole. And how do I know that? Maybe he would hurt a child. I really don't know. But I'm saying I don't think that's what the parole board was concerned about. I think they just couldn't release him. You know, if there was a parole project there for him, if he had a lot of family support, they, I think, would have done it. It was, you know, Mr. Kelsey, I think, cracked up laughing there at the end of his speech when he starts reading it from the date down to the, you know, he starts reading everything there. And then he starts talking about, I think, chicken pox, and Mr. Kelsey can't hold it together. But I still was surprised they voted no. I thought that they might have gone for it. Now, Richard, thank you for the info. What's interesting about this appeal is that he won the appeal. So he was initially sentenced to 40 years. Okay. And then he won the appeal and they dropped it down to 12. Now, to be sentenced to 40, he took a plea deal. And now the whole idea is that it says here, John attacks his conviction and sentence for his guilty plea for the crime of attempted aggravated sexual assault. He correctly urges that the Sixth Amendment rights were violated by prosecutorial actions taken against him after he was adjudicated incompetent to proceed and without the court subsequently finding him competent. Isn't that interesting? I mean, I think we could see how that would be possible. What I do like seeing here is that there's an appeal that's actually won. We don't see appeals that are won, and I could, you know, it's easy to see how there would have been prosecutorial wrongdoing in this case. I mean, who takes a plea deal for 40 years anyways for attempted aggravated sexual assault? We never see that. You could do far worse and get just 20 years going on a jury trial. Now here's what they say: the salient early chronology of events. In early June 2012, the defendant, then 22 years of age, was arrested for sexually abusing a child previously that month. They don't say how old the child was. On June 8, 2012, the defendant was provided a lawyer. On October 15, 2012, the defendant was indicted for the crime of aggravated sexual assault. So first it was attempted, and then they indicted him on the more severe charge. On October 24, 2012, through counsel, the defendant filed an application for the appointment of a sanity commission. Now, this is interesting how they do a sanity commission when it's not that he's insane. It's more like, but anyways, I don't know. Maybe that's just the bucket it falls under. Urging that he was suffering from mental disease or defect, I guess it could be defect, that precluded his ability to understand the proceedings or to assist counsel with his defense. On the date, the trial court ordered the requested sanity commission and appointed 2 psychiatrists to evaluate the defendant's mental status. The physicians disagreed as to the defendant's mental competency to proceed. On January 15, 2013, the trial court noted that the differing conclusions and appointed a psychologist to further evaluate the defendant. Isn't that, wow, 2 psychiatrists with 2 different perspectives. What a shock, right? That's the thing. When you get professional opinions, I think the whole thing is a bit of a gimmick, frankly. I do. I think you can have 10 opinions and get 10 different results for so many different cases. On January 15, 2013, the trial court noted the different conclusions and appointed a psychologist for the condition. The 3rd expert found the defendant to be mentally incompetent. So on April 30th, 2013, the trial court issued a ruling that the defendant lacked the capacity to proceed because of mental disease or defect that rendered him unable to understand the proceedings and to assist counsel. And I'll tell you, from what I've seen on this hearing, I saw someone that can understand the difference between right and wrong, even to the point where it seemed almost like he lied in trying to say, oh, I thought the person was older, but it could just be slow, right? There's a big difference between knowing right and wrong and being slow. Also, he graduated high school, even though it was through special ed. He's still, and I'm saying this as someone who literally took the short bus to school and didn't graduate high school. I dropped out in 10th grade. So on May 1st, 2013, the trial court signed an order to transport the defendant Eastern Louisiana Mental Health System for evaluation and treatment. On May 30, 2013, the defendant was physically admitted. On October 8, 2013, the Assistant Clinical Director of Acting Chief Executive Officer advised the court by letter that the defendant presented has the mental capacity to proceed as he now understands the proceeding against him and can assist his attorney in defense. So isn't that interesting? They're like, he doesn't understand. So let's send him to a hospital. Okay, we sent him there. He's admitted on May 30th. Now, April, May, June, July, August, September, October. All right, now he understands what he did was wrong and he can help his defense attorney. We saved him. Great job. It's funny, right? Therefore, we are discharging Jeremy Johnson and returning him to the custody of the sheriff immediately. Like the whole thing seems a bit procedural, a bit gimmicky, but I guess what are you supposed to do? I'm not saying this in defense of him, by the way. I'm just saying this in the idea of the system where it's like, no, he doesn't understand what he did wrong because we had 2 professionals. They disagreed. We brought a 3rd. The 3rd said he's incompetent. Let's send him to a hospital. The hospital, they do a miracle. They do a complete miracle. All of a sudden, they get him up to like this like above standard where he understands how they come to that conclusion. Who the hell knows? Now they send him back to the sheriff. On October 29, 2013, a prosecutor sought to comply with the mandatory time frame assigned. Judge was unavailable that day. They brought the judge. This part I kind of lose track of what's going on. The assisting judge had presided over the October 29th sanity hearing. The assigned judge made no finding as to the defendant's competency to proceed. There's no order of judgment competency in his record. This is what I don't get. I think there's some technicality issues with the judges and things, but I don't know. The defendant's due process of trials is not, but the bottom line is that, and I'll put the link in the description. Thank you, Richard. The decree was the defendant. So actually, before I get to the decree, let's look at the conclusion. Because the inadvertent violation of the defendant's Sixth Amendment rights, all trial court actions taken on and after November 12, 2013 are vacated. So I think what it means is that including the amended plea of not guilty and not guilty by reason of insanity, the guilty plea on April 4th, 2014 to attempted aggravated sexual assault, the 40-year hard label sentence without benefits. So basically, because he was deemed incompetent, it seemed that in that period, he still had they amended the not guilty plea and by reason of insanity, and then he somehow took a guilty plea, which they amended to, and you see here the 40-year sentence. I don't know. Should we go up and read it? It's actually quite interesting. We previously held the trial courts cannot even accept guilty plea if there's unresolved request for sanity commission, even if counsel seeks to withdraw request. The instant facts are oh gosh, this is such an easy word, but when I'm reading it, egregious in that this guilty plea was taken despite the most recent substantive ruling, the finding of mental incompetency by court order rendered April 30, 2012 and signed May 1st, 2012. No officer of the court, neither trial judge intended to do anything but follow the law. The mistake is understandable but must be rectified. Many factors led to the glitch in communication, including confusion about separate charges for separate records, mandatory time frame required, compliance, difficulty, multi-parish, good faith involvement of 2 judges and 2 prosecutors, and the sheer volume of court matters handled. It's pretty incredible that this all happened so quickly, but they fixed it. Because of the inadvertent violations of the defendant's Sixth Amendment rights, all trial court action. So that's how he went from a 40-year sentence to a 12-year sentence. It was remanded, and they basically, it's fascinating to me. It's like, at one point they thought it was so bad that they had to give him 40 years. And then when they someone caught that they screwed up. And as much as I am not rooting for him, it is still impressive to see a defense attorney do their job in this sense and right a judicial wrong. But how they then just say, you know what, they'll just be 12 years, because you could tell they just want to get rid of it. They want it to go away. So they dropped it to 12 years. And then fast forward 12 years later, it's as of March 26, 2024, he's still locked up, but he's going to be getting out in good time or just on his full term date any month now. And then what? So in reality, they just kicked the ball down the road. And I won't be surprised if we see him this year at a revocation hearing. And if we do, I'll put it on the playlist of Return of. That's the playlist for those who come back a second time. And with that,
DB was a student that was at risk of failing that particular grade, and he came across through the assistant principal's office, and they allowed me to counsel him one-on-one or just deal with him like that.
So tell me what happened between you and DB that ultimately led you into prison.
Well, what happened, he asked me for a ride one day from school, and he got permission from his parent, and I took him home from school. And at that time, I made a pass at him because I felt he was vulnerable. And I made a pass at DB, and we had sexual intercourse.
Okay, now you were 25 years old.
Yes, sir.
Were asked by the principal to come to the school to counsel these students.
Yes, sir.
DB were, now, Mr. Willis, I've read all of your statements, and basically from until just this moment, I think, you always blamed DB as being the one who came on to you, who initiated all of this. Tell me about your health issues. I mean, you know how this all came about, huh? How it got discovered. I mean, he was horribly ill in the hospital. He had all kinds of illnesses as a result of what has been attributed to you giving it to him. What was your medical? I know at some point you had a venereal disease. Did you ever get tested for AIDS or HIV?
yes, you heard this correctly. This was a man who was volunteering in 3 different schools for troubled kids as a music teacher, as a teacher, as a security guard, and of course, he did the unimaginable, but up for parole after just 7 years. Mr. Marabella does an excellent job, in my opinion. Let's jump in. I'll unpack it with the details.
He has a parole eligibility date of May the 12th of 2021. He has a full term date of September the 16th of 2034. He is currently serving a 20-year sentence on the charge of molestation of a juvenile, having been sentenced on August 1st of 2017. Mr. Willis, is that all accurate? Mr. Willis, your case was assigned to me, so I'll be the one to begin our interview process. Mr. Willis, how old are you?
35,
And how long have you been in prison on these charges?
8 years.
Mr. Willis, tell me a little bit about your educational background. How far did you go to school?
Well, I dropped out actually in the streets at ninth grade when I came to prison. I got a chance to get my high set in 2018. And then I recently enrolled in Ashland University where I'm pursuing my bachelor's in human communication.
Now, let's go back to 2014. What kind of work were you doing back then?
Well, at the time I was working at a funeral home, but I was also volunteering within the school system.
Tell me about your volunteer work within the school system. What did you do within the school system?
Well, underneath Southern University in Shreveport, they had a program where they were launching a community development thing between troubled schools and Southern University in Shreveport. And so they had asked me, because I was kind of big in the community, they asked me to go to certain schools and volunteer. And so at that time, I was
Let me stop you just for a second. You say you were big in the community. What does that mean? Explain to me what that means.
oh, well, I was active inside of the church and different small community events within the city of Shreveport.
Okay, and how old were you at that time?
About 25, 26 years old.
And did you have a job? Did you have a full-time job or part-time job? How were you
Yes, sir.
active in the community? Was that just volunteer work or was that for paid work or what?
No, sir, that was volunteer. That was strictly community service, but my living was J.S. Williams Funeral Home.
Okay, so you actually made a living what did you do at the funeral home?
I did first call pickups and dressing and casking, and also funeral attendant.
So let's talk a little bit about your volunteer work. What kind of volunteer work did you do?
Well, I would go into the school systems and kind of help a lot of the school administrators deal with troubled teens because myself, I came from a very troubled background and troubled community. And so I kind of understood how to deal with troubled teens at that particular time.
What was your relationship with Woodlawn School back then?
At that time, I was allowed to come in through Mr. Anthony Tisdale, who was the principal, to come and deal with the at-risk teenagers because their school was a failing school.
Now, did you have a title? Did you have an office there? I mean, were you there on a regular basis or did you just come in periodically?
I just came in periodically, mainly like 3 or 4 times a week. I didn't have an office or anything like that, just kind of floated around.
And what did you do when you were there? I mean, what was your role as helping the at-risk youth?
Well, I helped more in the discipline sector of the school when kids got in trouble.
And how did you help with that? What sort of things did you do?
Well, at that time, I would kind of sit down and counsel them alongside the assistant principal and talk to their parents and different things like that.
When you say you would counsel them, what do you mean? Did you have any training in counseling or was it just because you had some street smarts and trying to help them stay on the straight and narrow?
Yes, sir. It was mainly street smarts and just based on failing so much in life. I had that type of experience.
Were you some sort of a security guard there as well? I mean, did you have any other role there at the school other than?
No, sir. No, sir. Well, they used me in security, but I wasn't hired as security.
What do you mean they used you in a security role? Were you like a security officer there?
No, sir. No, sir. But like when things happen, like fights, different things like that, I would have to report to the city, help break up fights like that.
Now, there's also a program that you talked about, I think you operated called Ch0m0s. What is that?
Repeat that, sir.
Ch0m0s. You
Oh,
had a
yes.
program you operated Ch0m0s?
Oh, no, yeah, JPAM was the actual system that the school used to pull up the students' disciplinary record. And so we would use that to give the students a point of where they are at their current moment and where they need to be in order to pass that grade.
And how long had you been, how long did you work with the Woodlawn School, Mr. Teasdale? How long had he had you there?
For 2 years.
Tell me how you came to meet DB.
Well,
The victim.
DB was, yes, sir. DB was a student that was at risk of failing that particular grade. And he came across through the assistant principal's office, and they allowed me to counsel him one-on-one or just deal with him like that.
And when did you first start counseling him?
I think it was 2013, I believe 2013.
Did you know any of his family members?
Not at that time.
So tell me what happened between you and DB that ultimately led you into prison.
Well, what happened, he asked me for a ride one day from school, and he got permission from his parent, and I took him home from school. And at that time, I made a pass at him because I felt he was vulnerable. And I made a pass at DB, and we had sexual intercourse.
Okay, now you were 25 years old,
Yes, sir.
were asked by the principal to come to the school to counsel these students.
Yes, sir.
DB was how old, 16?
Yes, sir.
And you made a pass at him because you knew him or thought him to be vulnerable. Tell me what that means. What did you mean by that?
Well, at that time, I understood that he trusted me, and I took advantage of his trust based on me struggling with my identity.
And so what happened? What did y'all do? How long
Yes,
did y'all,
sir.
tell me what all went on? How long did this go
Okay.
on?
This went on for about a year. I would take him home, back and forth from home, because he stayed outside of the school district.
Did anybody else know about this?
Well, now they do since I've been in prison.
I understand that, but at the time.
Oh, no, sir.
Now, Mr. Willis, I've read all of your statements, and basically from until just this moment, I think, you always blamed DB as being the one who came on to you, who initiated all of this, who kind of found you to be vulnerable, so to speak. Now, is that the position you've had all along? How did that change, and when did that change?
How did that change? When I entered into the risk assessment sex offender program here at DCI, and I began to learn some of the 27 risk factors, and they deal with blame. And so it brings you to a reality where you got to understand that there's no way in the world that a 16-year-old could be the aggressor. I had to learn to take the blame and stop trying to justify what I did.
Tell me about your health issues. I mean, you know how this all came about, huh? How it got discovered. I mean, he was horribly ill in the hospital. he had all kinds of illnesses as a result of what has been attributed to you giving it to him. What was your
Yes, sir.
medical? I know at some point you had a venereal disease. Did you ever get tested for AIDS or HIV? Did you ever have any
Yes,
of
sir, I
that?
did. Well, I got tested in April 11th, I think the month of April 2013.
And what was the results?
It was negative. I didn't find out I was positive until October 2014 when I came to prison.
So you did find out at some later point that you were positive.
Yes, sir.
You did know that you had had syphilis previously.
Yes, sir.
Did any of that dawn on you while you were having these relationships with this young man?
No, sir. I was completely no conscious out of my mind. No, sir. I had none.
What is your medical condition now? And how are you physically now?
At this particular moment, I'm undetectable. Take my medicine every day, every afternoon.
What do you think? How do you think what you did affects DB?
I feel like he'll never have a normal life ever again. Never. In fact, I know for a fact he won't have a normal life again. And not only did I affect him, I affected his family, myself and my family, and also the community for those who trusted me.
Now, I believe you indicated you were going to go back to the funeral business if you were to get out.
Yes, sir.
What kind of work would you expect to do when you're on the outside?
Well, I'll simply be at the funeral home, dealing with the casketing situation when they deliver caskets to the funeral home and funeral attendant.
What are the most significant programs that you've taken? You talked about sex offender treatment. What do you think you've learned the most since you've been in prison?
You know, from the 27 risk factors, one of the most crucial things I learned is that in situations like this, you cannot play the blame game. You have to take responsibility for your actions. No longer try to justify what you did. There's no justification for messing up, especially a young person's life when it comes to sex offenses. Another program that I've taken that has been good for me is the victim's awareness, where I understand the ripple effect. Not only did I affect the victim and myself, but I also affected the victim's family, my family, the community, and all those who trusted me. And that'll take a lifetime to regain their trust.
You're a member of your Pride member,
Yes, sir.
Toastmasters,
Sir?
Toastmasters,
Yes, sir.
member of the
Member of-
JCs.
Yes, sir.
You've done a lot of good things while you've been in there. You know, Mr. Willis, I've got to say, I'm very concerned about the effects of your crime on this young man. In the position you were in, and the position of trust you had, and as you opened up our interview, you know, you knew him to be vulnerable, and you made a pass at him. How can I be sure that something like that isn't going to happen again?
I believe now that I've faced the reality of who I am now, and who I was is two totally different people. And now
Who
I
have
have
you yourself to be now? Who are you now?
I'm a man who's honest with myself and my identity. I'm a man who have learned from his mistakes, totally learned from his mistakes, and have lost so much from community connections to family members who no longer really, know me as that fake person I used to be. Now here it is, I'm honest with myself, and I've developed a a line of communication with my support system who now can love me for who I am and support me in my future endeavors.
Did you go to trial or did you plead guilty?
I pled guilty.
And the agreed upon sentence was 20 years?
Yes, sir. 5 of which should be served without possibility of probation or parole.
Do you think crime that you committed, having served 7 years, is sufficient?
As it pertains to the programs I've taken, I've literally exhausted every program within inside of the Department of Public Safety Correction that's demanded of me to be rehabilitated.
What would you say to DB if you had an opportunity to say something to him and to his family?
I would say, first of all, I'm sorry. And I understand that there's nothing I can do to change what happened. Not even heaven has power over that. But I do understand that you'll never, ever have a normal life again because of my irresponsibility. And I took your trust and I balled it up. And I understand that for that, you may be angry with me for the rest of your life. And I can understand that. But I promise you, it was never my intent to destroy your life. And I want to sincerely apologize.
Mr. Willis, explain to me why you were doing this community service. What were you getting out of this community service? Because I mean, I think it was a wonderful thing that you were trying to do, but you know, I wonder if you were just preying on people because they were vulnerable. You know, the old proverbial fox in the hen house kind of thing, you know? So what were your thoughts back then as the 25-year-old guy? I mean, you just met this young boy and you found him to be vulnerable and boom, you moved in on him.
Yes, sir. Well, at that time, like I said earlier, I didn't really know who I was, but I still had a compassion to help people. And because I understood a lot of the schools that I went to were failing schools, I understand they needed help. And there was nobody else in the community to stand up. Although I was struggling, I still had a heart and compassion to help people avoid some of the mistakes and miseducation that I also experienced. I never graduated high school. So my sole mission was to help other people. At that time, I failed. I honestly failed because I didn't really know who I was, not understanding I cannot help somebody else become who they need to be, except I know who I am.
Well, it concerns me because you just took, and I'm glad you took the sex offender treatment program, but you just finished that program this year. So
Yes,
up until I guess you took that program, you've been blaming that boy.
No, sir. Actually, I started that program in 2018 when I got to Hunt's Correction
Understand?
Center.
You finished
Yes,
it
sir.
in 22.
Yes, sir.
Okay. But up until then, you kept blaming that boy. He did it. He initiated this. He started all that. How does a 25-year-old man with street sense who wants to help people blame a teenager?
There was a 25-year-old man who was in denial about who he was and his responsibility, and him having to be accountable to people.
Mr. Willis, it sounds like you're moving in the right direction. I appreciate your comments. Warden, what can you tell us about Mr. Willis?
Good afternoon. You touched on his programming and so his record pretty much speaks for itself. The disciplinary in his class speaks for itself.
Thank you, Warden. Now we'll hear from your supporters. Let's hear from your mother, Ms. Capers. Ms. Capers, if you would, please.
Yes. Mario, in visiting Mario and talking with him on a regular basis, he often shared those classes and the things that he's learned. I do believe that he has been and is working on his rehabilitation. He has a host of family and friends that will support him if he's granted parole, that will support him in his continual rehabilitation. I actually have him with a appointment with a counselor. Then we would make sure also that he has whatever he's needing as far as a place to live. He'll be living with me, transportation, and whatever is needed to continue his rehabilitation.
Thank you very much, Ms. Capers. We appreciate your comments. Ms. Rose McCullough.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, we can.
Yes, sir. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. Thank you, ma'am. How about you?
Oh, I'm doing great, doing great.
Why don't you tell us what you want us to know about your friend, Mr. Willis?
Well, actually, Mario shared with you that he worked with the school system, and it was there that I met Mario for the first time. And of course, we worshiped at the same church. So I had an opportunity to observe him for some years. And in observing him, he was a team player. I saw him as being a team player, always helping to make things happen for the school, the community, and government. Very, very hard worker. It's just so happened during Christmas of 2021, I was compelled and unctioned to find Mario because by now I'd really missed him. And I started a search looking for Mario. I started with my former colleague, Sheriff Steve Prater, to see if maybe he was located here in Caddo Parish. And of course, Steve said he didn't have him. Fortunately, I was able to locate and contact and locate and communicate with his mom. And I found Mario. Since then, I have established a bond with Mario's mom, Mario, and I don't know if you all are familiar with his prison ministry. Working with his mom, we've been seeking several agencies, therapists to address any and all behavioral, mental, and medical needs to help him function in society. As a former guidance counselor, I assured his mom that I will be by her side. I've assured Mario that I would be there for him. Currently, as his mother stated, he's scheduled for therapy on October the 28th if he's released. It's been noted, that incarceration rehabilitation is a waste of money. This sometimes will perpetuate the same behavior, but due to stages of development and levels of maturation, there are some experiences of trauma. And this is what concerns me, not just about Mario, but being a teacher, a servant in the community. There are stages of development and levels of maturation in a person's life. They have experiences of trauma. And in having those experiences of trauma, let's just say from a child, they never share it with anybody. What happens is that trauma is transferred or inflicted on another human being. I'm sure just by communicating with Mario, he knows he made a mistake. And we all do. Some of us just don't get caught. But it is written, when I was a child, I spake as a child. Now that I've become a man, I put away childish things. And I think based on everything that Mario has brought to the table, all that he's gone through, he knows who he is now. He's no longer what I would say that child anymore. He is a man now. Mario was then 25.
You can wrap it up.
40.
2 seconds, okay?
I can't hear you.
If you could wrap it up for us, please. We've got some other speakers that we want to hear.
Okay, but I really believe in Mario. I don't condone the behavior. I'm a mother of 3 sons, 44, 40, 38, and a daughter, 33. But having served 8 years of a 20-year sentence, 8 representing new beginnings, I'm asking and pleading with the board for mercy on Mario's behalf, allowing him a second chance. There's a great work ahead of him, and with proper supervision, support, and rehabilitation, he can make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Suzette Spears.
Hello, I have only known Mario and his mother for a year now. And I've had an opportunity, my husband is also at this meeting. We've had an opportunity to speak with Mario and to get to know the man that he is today. I have worked with him and he has shared with me some of the things that he wants to do once he is released. I have become very good friends with his mother, and I also pledge to be a part of his support structure when he is released. I do think that he is on the right path, and I do believe that when he is given another opportunity, that he will do as unto God what he is supposed to be doing. And I do believe that he will become a better man with all of the support that he has around him. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Spears. We appreciate your comments. Mr. Willis, is there anything you'd like to say before the panel votes?
I would like to say that I'm no longer the same man I used to be. I've been changed. I can no longer change my past, but I can change the future and help our community be better and help crime prevention.
Thank you, Mr. Willis. Mr. Willis, I appreciate your comments today. You've worked pretty hard, done some good work. You've taken some programs. I think that you've recognized some issues. I'm very pleased to hear you accept responsibility for what you did now. For the longest time, I don't think you did. I think you're moving in the right direction. I still think there's ways for you to go, though. You have a moderate static 99. You have law enforcement opposition. You have victim opposition. The nature of the crime is just horrible. You abused your position of authority. And I think that 7.5 to 8 years or a 20-year sentence is just insufficient at this point. But I do commend you for what you've done. I hope you continue to work as hard as you've worked. And perhaps the next time, if I'm still on this panel, my vote might be different. But today, my vote would be to deny. So good luck, Mr. Rocha.
Mr. Marabella, my vote is the same for the same reasons.
Freeman?
I concur with both of my colleagues, and my vote's the same.
Mr. Willis, we encourage you to continue your hard work. You've got good family support. Perhaps next time might be different, but today is just not the time. Good luck to you, sir. Warden, thank you very much for your help. I think we're finished and we're going to close out.
Yeah, so y'all have a great day. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Take care.
It's really, what did I just watch? This is another one of those cases. This is so sick. And I can't get over it. I have a hard time thinking, what is more broken here? Is it the system that really only gave a man, and we'll get into, I don't want to call him a man, we'll get into how, is it more broken that he got a 20-year sentence with possibility of parole after 5, or is it more broken that he has 3 supporters preaching about him in the most disgusting, ignorant ways possible? A teacher, for God's sake. We all do bad. We all make mistakes. It's just we don't get caught. It's like, no. We'll get into the details. Thank you, Richard, for providing it. He was volunteering at 3 schools as a volunteer teacher, as a volunteer music instructor, volunteer mentor. Not because he was trying to give back. It's so clear to anyone with 2 brain cells that he was doing it because he was, as Mr. Marabella said, the fox in the hen house. He was doing this as an intentional act of being a predator. The idea that they only had 1 victim come forward is just that. If you think that he didn't have more than one victim, then you can go join his supporters over there. Mistake. You know he gave the kid HIV? His victim, syphilis and HIV? You give that to a child and you can get 20 years? As a volunteer, as someone who's put in the school system to support troubled kids? And by the way, he was 14 when it started. Mr. Mirabella made that one mistake of not going through the reports thoroughly enough. It was 16 when it was reported, 14 when it started. 2 years. He was only found out because the child went to the hospital deathly ill and they realized that he had syphilis and HIV. When he was 16, that's when they found out. And the grooming started when he was 13. And do you know what he said? Even down to the final days of his sentencing? He said that the 16-year-old came onto him. He believes that 16-year-olds have consent. And like I said, who am I more disgusted with? The system that only thinks 20 years? 20 years? 20 years? Why don't you go to trial and lock him up for life? What redeeming factor does this monster have? Why would you ever do a plea deal? You have the proof. And is the DA here? No. Do they show up? No. Do they make announcements when the guy's caught? Yeah, sure. They'll be tough on crime. This stuff's not allowed. Literally, someone who sneaks into 3 school districts, mentors troubled kids, sexually assaults them, gives them HIV, and you give him a sentence where he can have parole after 5? And you don't even show up. That's sick. Why is it that I feel that most of us with common sense are as outraged and upset as I am, but those in charge of protecting us, they don't care? And where does that line up? Where does that line up? It's an insult. It's insanity. It's as insane as his 3 supporters in that room. On September 11th, of all dates, 2014, Shreveport Police Detective Monique Robinson was dispatched to University Health, Shreveport, in reference to sexual assault complaint by a 16-year-old male identified as DB. Upon arriving at University Health, Shreveport Detective Robinson learned that DB had been hospitalized for several days for what his mother believed was a cold and stomach virus. After DB's condition worsened and he was placed in ICU, physicians advised DB and his mother that his condition was a result of being positive for syphilis and HIV. Yeah. And what was it that he even said at his parole hearing? He said that he was struggling with his own identity. That's why he did it, because he was struggling with his identity. Okay, brother. DB disclosed to physician that the only sexual partner he had was Mario T. Willis. So the only sexual partner that he has ever had was his teacher, who was grooming him since the age of 13. A 26-year-old volunteer at DB's school who acted as a mentor towards him. DB told detectives Robinson that his sexual encounters with Willis began when he was 14 years old. and occurred approximately 5 times over the course of 2 years. And I have no doubt it was more than 5 times. It's this is a kid in a hospital who's afraid and probably says a number. That's just my opinion. In a statement to police, Willis admitted to 3 sexual encounters with DB over a period of 6 months. He also admitted to being positive for syphilis and that he was awaiting his test results for HIV. I don't know how you only get 10, 20 years. You have right here that he admits he knows he's positive. Now, isn't that intentional? Like the amount of charges that you could have laid on him would have been enough to lock him up for life. And you give him a plea deal? You have a child that has no sexual partners except for the man who's been assaulting him, who has syphilis and HIV, who has matched to his mentor who has syphilis and HIV, who has a confession on record to detectives. Do you need any more points to have a slam dunk case? No, but they still do a plea deal. HIV, okay. Willis was subsequently charged with a bill, molestation of a juvenile. Why is that even it? Why is it only molestation? Why is it not more than that? Why is that the only charge? Over a recurring period of time of more than 1 year. The state alleged Willis molested DB from January 2013 until August of 2014 by use of, among other things, position of control and supervision. On April 28, 2017, pursuant to an agreement with the state, Willis pled guilty to the charge offenses. Both parties agreed to a trial court would impose a sentence cap of 20 years of hard labor. Prior to accepting his guilty plea, the trial court confirmed Willis of his constitutional rights, including the rights of self-incrimination, his rights to confront and cross-examine accusers, and his right by a jury trial. Willis stated he understood his rights and waived them by pleading guilty. Thereafter, a trial court accepted Willis' guilty plea. And in preparation for the PSR report on August 1st, 2017, a sentencing hearing was held. Testimony gathered from multiple witnesses. The state presented the testimony of DB's mother and uncle. Willis testified on his behalf and presented the testimony of his mother and pastor. Of course, already and we find out that he's a pastor in prison and wants him. It's these type of hearings that just get me sick. After considering the evidence presented, including the PSR report, the trial court sentenced Willis to 20 years of hard labor with 5 first years to be served without benefit of parole. Willis also was introduced to register as a sex offender upon his release on August. And some of this crime happened in some random year that we don't understand. I mean, it happened in 2017. Can you imagine how was this not the biggest news story that ever was? I mean, I do have news clips from Channel 12, but a mentor? No, because they wanted to sweep it under the rug. Everyone wanted to sweep it under the rug and make it go away, and that's why there was no trial. That has to be it. Willis was also introduced to then he filed a motion because it was excessive. Willis now appeals, asserting that the trial court erred in denying his motion to recuse the Cato Parish Sheriff's Attorney's Office because of direct conflict between the office and DB. The trial court erred in denying motion. Such a moron. On October 1st, 2014, the mother filed a civil lawsuit on DB's behalf against Willis and Cato Parish Board for damages arising from the same conduct, charged with criminal prosecution. A prosecutor for the Cato Parish Attorney's Office to represent them in the lawsuit. Oh, so that was a conflict because the same for the civil case and for that's interesting. During the pendency of both criminal and civil cases, District Attorney Charles Scott died suddenly. Wow. During the pendency of the cases, District Attorney Charles Scott died suddenly. And Cox, who was the first assistant district attorney, became acting district attorney thereafter. On May 27, 2015, Willis filed a motion to recuse the district attorney's office from his case. As district attorney had a position of interest in the outcome of Willis' criminal case. I hear that. He has a fair point because he was handling their civil lawsuit, which was in conflict with fair and impartial administration of his prosecution. Notably, it does not appear from the record on the trial court rules in the motion. On March 9th, 2017, Willis filed a motion to quash bill of information, arguing that charges against were wrong offense. Willis supported the motion citing DB's deposition testimony from the civil lawsuit in which DB stated the sexual encounters between him and Willis did not occur over a period of more than 1 year. March 9th, Willis filed a motion to quash the bill of information. We'll support the motion DB's deposition testimony. The civil lawsuit. Okay, so he's saying that DB's, and again, this can be quite, but anyways, who cares if it was a year, more than a year, or less than a year. On April 27, 2017, Willis filed a second motion to recuse the district attorney office, reiterating the argument he made in the first motion to recuse. Additionally, Willis noted that during the deposition taken in the civil lawsuit, Cox elicited testimony from DB that the sexual encounters between him and Willis did not occur over a period of more than 1 year. Willis stated that the elicited testimony was a direct contradiction to the facts alleged by the State Bill of Information, although Cox was no longer associated with the district attorney's office. When the second motion to recuse was filed, Willis asserted Cox's prior employment with the district attorney's office. If he's not any longer there, dispute evidence gathered as employed during the time of evidence, a hearing the motion to quash second motion. I am curious about this because to me, it still does seem like a clear conflict. After considering the arguments of the parties, the trial court denied both motions. As it pertains to the motion recused, the trial court found that Cox had a personal interest in the conflict, where the fair and impartial prosecution of Willis was removed when Cox ceased employment with the district attorney's office. Okay, so there you go. So if there was a conflict, there's not anymore because he left the DA's office. Now, what did they win? It doesn't say, huh? Probably settled. Willis argues his 20-year sentence is excessive because the state filed improper charge by alleging the offense occurred during a period of more than 1 year. Willis contends that had the state alleged the offense occurred for a period of less than 1 year, the maximum sentence imposed would only have been 10 years. Wherever they committed a crime molestation of juvenile by violating provisions. It's just so stupid. They're pulling up the legislation where it's actually you could get without hard labor, not less than 5 no more than 40 years or both. At least 5 years of the sentence shall be imposed without benefit of parole. I don't know why they didn't. This is the perfect example of a case where you lock someone up for life. Really, it is. I mean, where can you get more better than this? Notwithstanding, despite Willis' expression of remorse in his sentence, is not a purposeless and needless infliction of pain or suffering, nor is it disproportionate of the offense. The trial court placed significance to the devastating health issues, both physically and mentally, DB now suffers and will continue to suffer as a result of Willis' action. The trial court also finds Willis would likely reoffend due to his testimony that minors, 14 and above, could consent to sex with adults. As such, the trial court did not abuse its discretion. Willis to serve just 20 years. Wow, they're so tough. They gave him 20 years. Wow, they're so great. Let's go to this article. Ongoing investigation. This is really early on stages. A local man charged with molestation of juvenile Mario Willis faces serious charges after authorities learned of an alleged sexual relationship between Willis and a male adolescent spanning approximately 2 years. During the investigation probe, the allegations, it was learned that Willis volunteered at a non-teaching role at Cato Parish when an alleged relationship began. Detectives were able to gather secure evidence linking Willis to the teen and appealing to potential victims to come forward with any other information they may have. Willis, following the arrival of Shreveport Tuesday evening, was arrested and booked. And here they go. Here they go with their quote that they can hand out so they can put on the big press release. Cato Parish Public Schools can confirm Mario Willis, who faces charges of indecent behavior with the juvenile, was a volunteer in some schools, said Superintendent. We take very seriously allegations of misconduct with any individuals on our campuses. We'll begin immediately reviewing all policies pertaining to volunteers. Cato School is working in full cooperation with law enforcement. Literally, you send your child to school and they come back like that, and it's just the system failed that child on every level. It's unfathomable. Here's another one. He previously volunteered with music programs to help with school security, as well as work with students in discipline programs, said Mary Wood, the school system spokesman. Detectives were able to gather secure evidence linking Willis to teen appearing potential victims. Yeah, it's a little bit of redundancy now. I just realized I had the page not full view there. But I'm enraged. To me, it's just so disturbing that. But hey, I mean, I'm a broken, recorder here, just repeating the same statement over and over. But this is part of why we do this, because they may have wanted to just sweep it under the rug and make it go away and have it from finding it out to, sentencing him. They probably told him, it's 5 years, you'll get parole. Well, this hearing took place in 2022. We'll probably see him again this year. I would bet you. And what was interesting, they mentioned Sheriff. And she mentioned her buddy, Sheriff Prater. Well, Sheriff Prater, I highly doubt that Sheriff Prater would appreciated his name being referenced in this parole case, because he's kind of like a Sheriff Grady type personality. And he is now on the parole board. And I can't wait to see him and to meet him. And maybe, just maybe, he'll be a parole board member when this monster comes up for parole this year, if he does indeed. Thank you, Richard, for the info. And with that, I'll let you go.
Third degree feticide. Tell us what that was.
That was being a girl that got into an altercation, and she had lost my baby.
Okay, well, but that, okay. So what did you do that caused her to miscarry?
I had grabbed her by a leg and drug her. That's all I did. I never did hit her.
Face down?
Yes, ma'am.
Why did you do that?
Well, at the time, I was drinking and I had got mad.
Yes, and this is just the half of it. His crimes and what it's infuriating. But Miss Jackson does a good job interviewing him. So let's jump into the parole hearing and we'll unpack it after.
And you've been in prison for about 3.5 years of that 5-year sentence?
No, 3 years and 9 months.
Okay, all right. The victim in this case was 8 years old and she was accepted. That's correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Would you tell the board what you did to end up with this conviction for indecent behavior?
Yes, ma'am. I was watching porn and I had my my genitals out while she was there.
And did you ask her if she wanted to put her hands around it?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, I appreciate you being honest about what happened in that case. I appreciate that. Why do you think you did that?
Why did I think I did that? I wasn't thinking, and
I always say that when unless we're sleeping, even then we're dreaming. I don't know what the thinking was. You might not have been thinking appropriately, but you were thinking. So what do you think caused you to do that?
I was just watching it and like.
Let me ask you this: do you have an addiction to porn? If you have or had an addiction to porn?
No, ma'am.
Why were you watching it? You were in a relationship. Why were you watching porn on your phone?
I don't know, I shouldn't have been watching it to begin with.
Or when did you start watching porn?
I was watching it that day.
And no, when did you start?
Oh, I started probably about 2 or 3 weeks prior to that.
And what caused you to start watching porn?
I don't know, I just saw it on there and I just like what I seen.
We mean you saw it on there. Saw it on where?
When I started, say that again, ma'am.
You said when you saw it on there, you just started watching. You saw it on where?
On Pornhub.
So you had to go there.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, like it just popped up on your phone, you made a conscious decision to go to a pornography website.
Yes, ma'am.
That was it child pornography?
Nuh-uh. No, ma'am.
Your victim was 8 years old.
I know, but it wasn't child pornography.
You have prior convictions for distribution of cocaine, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Have a third degree feticide. Tell us what that was.
That was being a girl that got into an altercation and she had lost my baby.
Okay, well, but that, okay. So what did you do that caused her to miscarry?
I had grabbed her by a leg and drug her. That's all I did. I never did hit her.
Face down?
Yes, ma'am.
Why did you do that?
Well, at the time, I was drinking and I had got mad.
So let's talk about that. What's your history with alcohol and drugs?
Alcohol. I drink the alcohol, but I didn't do drugs.
At all?
No, ma'am.
Ever?
Never.
So how often did you drink alcohol?
I drunk it most often.
So are you an alcoholic? Do you consider yourself an alcoholic?
No, ma'am. I can stop drinking alcohol.
How do you know? If you were drinking it all the time, how do you know you can stop?
Because at a point of my life, I just wanted to stop, and I wanted to, get with
And when did you stop using alcohol?
before I come to jail.
Yeah, but weren't you using it when this crime occurred?
Yes, ma'am.
So before you're not drinking it in jail, but when you were out of jail, you were drinking it quite a bit. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So what makes you think you weren't an alcoholic?
Because I didn't drink every day.
When you drank, did you get tipsy or drunk every time you drank?
No, ma'am.
Were you under the influence when you committed this crime?
Yes, ma'am.
Have you taken any kind of programs at all, Mr. Brown, since you've been incarcerated?
Yes, ma'am. I took sex offender classes,
How many phases?
all 4.
Did you learn from that?
I learned that it made me a better person.
I don't want to hear. I said,
Okay.
what you learned in the class?
I learned that you can the do's and don'ts, the risk factors where you want to get.
What are the risk factors? What are some risk factors?
Risk factors like blame, to make someone you got blame, you got cognitive extortion, you got like masturbation to a deviant fantasy, sexual lapse, and all that stuff there. I learned, all of them in them classes, and I participated.
Glad to hear. What did you learn about controlling your behavior?
About when you stop and don't do it.
If it was that simple, you would have stopped and not did it on the day that you did it. So I'm
Yes.
asking, what specific tools did you learn to help you not do the same thing again? What are some things that taught you to prevent yourself from doing something like this again?
The tools I used was
What about not putting yourself in a situation where you would be around or along with juvenile female? That one of the things that you were taught not to do?
yes, ma'am, like the high risk situation.
Well, what about the day you got the unlawful presence of a sex offender around the juvenile? You went to the house, the victim was there.
Yes, ma'am.
You were the only one there. So explain to me how that situation happened.
I had went down there to go and I was gonna get my son some clothes for school. And when I went down there, wasn't nobody there. And I was finna get ready to leave. That's when Patrick drove up and he called me down there.
Wait a minute. The victim was at the house, isn't that right? You said nobody was there, but the victim was there.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, and how did you know she was there?
She was in that room and when I went to the door.
How do you know where she was? Did she open the door? Did you go in the house? Tell me what happened.
My son was right there at the door, opening the door, and the room is right here when you open the front door.
Well, let me ask you this. Did you call ahead before you went there? Did you just show up unannounced?
I know I should have called ahead.
Why didn't you? Why would you just show up unannounced? You don't know whether anybody's there. You say you show up and this little girl is there at the house. And she was there by herself until Patrick showed up, right?
Yes, ma'am.
As part of the sex offender treatment, what did you learn about the effect of your behavior on the victim? What did you learn about that?
I learned that I shouldn't be nowhere where I don't supposed to be. I don't need to be around them small kids and stuff. And it showed me that I need to stay away because it's a high risk situation.
My question is, what do you think your actions have done to that little girl? How has what you've done affected her? My interested, not that I'm not interested, but I wasn't asking about what you learned yourself. I'm asking you, how do you think that affected that little girl, 8 years old?
Well, I don't know. But if I had the chance, I will apologize.
I mean, what do you mean you don't know? They didn't talk to you about how sexual crimes affect the victim?
Yeah, I know it affected them badly.
You can't tell me any specific ways you think it might have affected her?
Would have probably affected her like mentally.
When did you When did you go to Steve Hoyle? Was that when you took sex offender treatment?
Yes, ma'am. I went, like, it was in 2021, around January, February.
While you were there, you took the sex offender treatment part of it?
Yes, ma'am. I took that. I took, anger management and
Yeah.
substance.
So what kind of work were you doing back then?
Before I went to Steve Hall,
Prison?
I'm working in the kitchen cooking.
No, you're not listening to my question. What kind of work were you doing before you came to prison?
Oh, I was working at a mechanic shop.
And what do you do where you are right now?
I'm working in the kitchen cooking.
And how long have you been doing that?
I was doing it before I went to Steve Hall. And when I come back, I went right back in the kitchen, and I've been doing it since I come back.
Okay. And if you were successful today, what would be your transition plan?
To go back out, to be a better person.
That's
And,
not not a plan. What is your plan?
What is my plan when I get out?
Exactly, right.
But first, I want to go and see my parole officer.
Okay.
And I want to take care of my business. I need to take care of like registering, put my name, putting my names in the paper, putting the cards out for the community.
Right.
And
where would you live?
I live in Zawali.
With whom?
My brother.
And where would you work?
I'm going back to the same job I was working when I got out, before I came.
What was that?
Mr. David Michelle, the mechanic shop.
Okay, he told you he'd give you your job back?
Yes, ma'am.
What's your relationship with the victim's mother?
She was my girlfriend.
What's your relationship with her now?
None.
Do you have any children of your own?
Yes, ma'am. I have a little boy.
Is that Patrick?
Nuh-uh.
Okay.
No, I have a little boy. His name Frederick.
And is his mother different from the victim's mother?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
That's his mother too.
Oh, so you have a child with the victim's mother, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
How old is that child? How old is your son?
10.
You have any contact with him?
So sometimes I'll call my sister, and I'll have my sister to call and talk to him for me.
Right. So you and the victim's mom don't communicate with each other anymore?
No, ma'am.
All right, is there anyone in the room with Mr. Brown that can give us any more information about him?
Yes.
Hello, how y'all doing?
Sir, would you tell us your name so we can have it for the record?
I'm the chaplain, Anthony Lowe, Senior.
Anything you can tell us about Mr. Brown?
From what I know of him, he's a hard worker. I mean, he's faithful to his job. Everybody get along with him. I mean, it's nothing that he won't do to help anyone here. And I've been counseling with him, and I do feel that he feel bad for what he had done, and but he is a good guy. And I really think that he deserves another chance.
Do you know, and maybe, who that is coming in, about his disciplinary record at all? Are you aware of his disciplinary record?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have any write-ups?
No, ma'am.
Okay,
No.
good.
No, ma'am. He have no write up or whatnot. He come to work every morning, 4 o'clock, and he'll work to about 7 o'clock. He makes sure everything is done, prepared for the next day. I mean, he's a great worker.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
All right.
No, I'm talking about. Mr. Brown, is there a statement you'd like to make to us before we vote?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I would like to make a statement to the victim and the family that I'm very sorry for what happened. And if I could, I would apologize. And this will never happen again. If I can get another chance, you know, I will make myself a better person. I'm gonna go into church. I'm gonna make sure this don't, be no problem with me no more. And I just thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Me, miss, me?
No, I said thank you.
Okay.
Okay. You know, Mr. Brown, this is a really difficult case anytime, a child is involved with inappropriate sexual activity. It's concerning. What you did traumatized the victim, but you didn't physically touch the victim, and the victim didn't physically touch you, which kind of mitigates the nature of the offense. I'm inclined to grant your early release because of the fact that in a little over a year you were full term out with no supervision whatsoever. You'll have served your sentence. You will still be subject to sex offender registration and notification, but you wouldn't have any kind of supervision. And I'm kind of concerned about the viewing of pornography, whether or not that's addictive behavior. And I would like to see you get some sort of psychological evaluation.
Yes, ma'am.
Whether or not you do have an addiction to pornography, and to follow any kind of treatment that you can. But my vote today would be to take a chance on you, Mr. Brown, to grant your early release with the condition that you undergo a psychological evaluation to determine whether or not you have pornography addiction. Also, even though you say you do drugs, you do have a distribution of cocaine conviction, which, I find it hard to believe that someone is simply selling drugs and not using any drugs. So I would also like to see you attend at least 2 AA or NA meetings per week. I would also order that you have no contact with the 8-year-old victim or then 8-year-old victim in this case, and any contact with her mother regarding your child in common would have to be done through a third party and no direct act by you. So that's my vote. I'm gonna need one vote, Mr. Brown. Mr. O'Shea?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Good morning, Mr. Brown. How are you?
All right, how are you?
I'm fine. Thank you for asking. Mr. Brown, I have sat here for the last 15, 20 minutes, listened intently at your interview. And one of the last things you say, give me another chance. I'll do right. You are fifth telling your offense. You pled guilty in May of 2018 to this offense. 3 months later, you were arrested for failure to register as a sex offender. 3 days after that, you were arrested for coming in contact with your original victim. You have a poor supervision history, extensive criminal history. You have multiple sex offenses. The entire legal community, the judge, the DA's office, and law enforcement are strongly opposed to your release. And lastly, you have a moderate risk assessment telling me that you have a moderate chance of reoffending. For all those reasons, I'm going to deny your request.
Mr. Brown, I share all the concerns that have been stated by my colleague. I too would vote to grant your parole because I believe there is a need for some supervision with the term date. And I would also concur with the special conditions by Jackson. So my vote is to grant. But in your case, Mr. Brown, it requires a unanimous vote. So you've gotten two favorable, two votes to grant, one vote to deny. So the outcome of today is that your parole is denied. So good luck to you. So that's Sabine, I believe. No, I'm sorry, we have one more there. I apologize.
Thank goodness for Mr. O'Shea. Man, I'll tell you, I am going to miss him, and you might as well. There's just something about him, the way that he came in there with a right and a left and a right and a left, just laying down the facts, like reminding us of, hello, this man, really, it's like his stepdaughter, maybe not by law, but that's, I mean, he has it's the half sister of his son. He's a fatherly figure. He does this offense, which, on the record, they say there's no touching, which, okay, I don't know if I would believe that for a second. And then it seems he doesn't get any type of real sentence because it's 3 months later when he violates for not registering. And then just a few weeks after that, when he shows up at the victim's house when she's alone. Do you have to be like completely blind to how ridiculous, how crazy that is? Why is he not getting in trouble? Why is he not getting prison time for this? You hear him, the way that he describes what happened when he was charged with third degree, when he basically killed his unborn child. And the way that he describes it was they got in a fight and she lost their baby. I just can't believe what I'm listening to. Miss Jackson did an outstanding, wonderful job interviewing. I thought, a classic Miss Jackson. But then she goes to Grant. I don't get that. The guy took no accountability. Not to mention he lied through the entire thing. Yeah, he just started watching Pornhub 2 weeks before the act happened. That's when he first started doing it. We got in a fight and she lost my baby. I didn't do anything. All I did was drag her by her feet. Miss Jackson said, "Yeah, while she's on her stomach." Can you imagine the rage that he's in when he's dragging his pregnant girlfriend across the floor so violently that she loses her baby? Now, I don't have any additional information to share on this case, but from what Richard was able to share, he's still locked up. And this hearing took place in 2022, and recording this at the time of 2024. So he's still locked up. Thank goodness. What a scary thing. And to think that he's going to have to now be involved in some way or another with his 8-year-old victim. I just don't. There's certain people that need to be locked up, and he gets felony after felony after felony of violent, dangerous crimes against people and children. Oh man, Mr. Jackson laid down the law. Mr. Jackson, Mr. Roche. But I know that I had done this hearing a couple years ago, but didn't do it. Doing it again, I really didn't remember how insane it was. Thank you, Richard. I'll let you go.